Hey 6th grade, welcome to your fossils lecture. Go ahead and get the slides pulled up if you haven't already. Give you a second to do that, pause the video. Alright, so your warm up. It says, how can you see remains of dinosaurs? And you probably know this answer. I'll give you a second. It's fossils, which is the topic for today. So we're going to talk about how fossils form and different types of fossils and all that fun stuff. So fossils are in chapter 10, pages 122 and 123. Let's begin. So our first slide says, how do fossils form? And we learned about deposition and breakdown earlier this week. And remember, deposition is when sediment lays down over other materials. And when this happens, it can trap organisms, like little dinosaurs, in the sediment, and when they either die or experience a catastrophe and their remains are then preserved in this sediment. There are three ways to categorize different kinds of fossils, and it's either when the organism lived, the type of organism, or how the fossil formed. We're going to talk about different fossil formations today. So when the organism lived is pretty simple. How long ago did that organism walk the earth? The type, whether it was aquatic or a land animal or could it fly, all that kind of stuff. So let's go on to slide 4. The 4 basic fossil formations are mold, trace, resin, and petrifaction, also known as petrification. I tend to refer to it as petrification, but your book has it as petrifaction. So slide 5, let's talk about mold fossils. These are fossils that preserve an organism's shape, kind of like when you press something into modeling clay and you can see the shape of whatever you're making. So what happens is the material moved around or filled in the organism, and then over time that material hardens, but it's before the organism itself breaks down. So say we have a shell and the shell doesn't immediately break down. Let's say all the sand fills it in and goes around it. Before that shell starts to break down and break apart, go all away, the sand around it will harden and the mold will be there once the shell breaks down. And it can be filled by mud or minerals, whatever, and it creates a cast of the original shape. You can see that in the picture there. It's actually of a shell. Our next type is trace fossils. These are preservation of behaviors like footprints, eggs, burrows, droppings, any kind of track, like if a snake slithered across the ground and left a track. These types of fossils pretty much tell us how this organism lived. Like if it's an egg, well, that tells us, number 1, these organisms laid eggs. Number 2, they put them in a nest with this many other eggs, or however the organism lived. There's another word for the droppings for these fossils. They're called coprolites, and that's just the droppings, the feces that any organism dropped. And this can provide information about the eating habits if you can, if any of the scientists can recover any sort of nutrients or minerals that were inside the coprolites. Slide 7, our next one, are resin fossils. You've probably seen these before. These are where the organism has been completely trapped in resin, or as you see here, it's also called amber. It's fossilized tree sap. They're very valuable because you can observe the entire organism, and that can lead to many, many scientific discoveries instead of just a piece of it or just an imprint it left behind. You get to see the whole thing, like that organism there that appears to be a dragonfly. You can see the entire dragonfly's body and all that. Our last form is petrifaction or petrification, and it's a process by which an organism is completely replaced by minerals. So what happens is the organism is there, it died, and over time different minerals and rocks fill in where the organism was, or fill in the body of the organism, and it completely replaces it, and you have kind of like a little rock that looks like the organism, as you see with the lizards and the fish in that picture. Okay. So your little homework assignment is to look at the pictures on that slide, A, B, C, D, and E. Figure out what kind of fossil of the 4 they are. There is a repeat. And just email me or send me a message in team with your answers. Bye!